I've lost everything twice already in crypto. I think the best education is always learning from failures. The only way a person can be really stopped from using crypto is like you put a gun on their head. Like that's pretty much it. One industry that NFTs and blockchain truly revolutionize and not just enhance is the art business. I want to build a tool which enables people an easy movement into becoming an art collector.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chat Masala. There's something for everyone here, whether you're into tech or economics or finance or politics or law or even art, because we have with us Shash Gupta. Shash started his career as a lawyer in India and has been dedicated to the blockchain space ever since. Since 2016, building information centers such as altcoin buzz, fungible games, and alt art for people to stay updated and knowledgeable about the Web3 space. He loves to learn about innovative technologies, ambitious founders, and building user-focused working products. Shash, so wonderful to have you with us.
Yeah, super excited to be here. This is my first formal interview in this kind of a setting. I love it. Like you guys have such an amazing space here. Just visiting it, like I was like, this is gonna be fun. And like after speaking with you, like I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Likewise, sir. I'm super interested because law is seen as a very risk-averse field.
Yeah.
Where you're always thinking about what can go wrong and how do you minimize the downside. And you jump from that to entrepreneurship and cryptocurrency, which are fairly riskier. Talk to us about that thought process. I think that's so interesting. What inspired you to take the leap?
To quit law was something I did because I was super bored. Just couldn't do it anymore. I think to a certain degree, like it also boils down to the fact that you can't do serious public speaking unless you're overconfident or like you have complete knowledge of a subject. So for me, like you have to study a lot in law to have that kind of a confidence. So for me, it was like I was more interested towards the business side of things. Like my brain always worked. Like I had not really a business. It was just like a survival means. When I was in school and college as well, I was running like a 360-degree music business while I was studying law.
While you were studying law?
Yeah.
A 360-degree music business. So you've got to tell us about that.
Everything from like artist management, record label, events and production, merchandising, e-commerce, and like everything around independent musicians. The thing is that law was kind of boring and like it was very structured. Like there is a very simple path to success in that career, which involves a lot of hard work. And then in the music business, especially in the independent music side of things, like there's very little money in it. So I kind of left both and like I got an opportunity to move to Singapore and I just moved there.
Amazing. Has your background in law, however, played a role in your entrepreneurial endeavors, giving you skills that come in handy even today?
To a certain degree, yes. Like the legal mindset helps me think of compliance and regulatory issues in every step of the way. So that helps, but that's also because I would have been a fourth-generation lawyer in my family as well. So It's like a thing that we've always kind of studied law directly, indirectly. And then when I was practicing it and studying it, like jumping it into crypto was interesting because my background is like legal and marketing and business maybe. And crypto is like cryptocurrency, which is crypto, which is, technology, and currency, which is finance. And I had no clue about it. So having that edge of understanding the legal side helped me quite a bit because it was a certain frame of mind that I had to kind of like understand where things sound a little legally off. And then also because I run a media organization, it was easy to see or understand the legalities of things. So it did help me to a certain degree. I could have wasted less time and not done that legal course for 5 years, could have done it in 6 months. But such is life.
No worries. Just building off this, because I think this concept of switching careers, especially something so drastic as law to media, is interesting. How did you pick up those skills as rapidly as you did? Any advice for young people who are feeling stuck? Maybe they're in law or they're in medicine or whatever, and they're like, I want to try something new. Do you have a blueprint for that?
Well, first thing has to be the will to try something new. For me, it was always like, if something is not working, make sure either you fix it or move on. I think a lot of people get stuck to ideas, and I'm not saying persistence is a bad thing, but if you have a goal or sort of like a place where you want to head to and you have that in mind, then no path is right for you but that. But if you're exploring and finding yourself and finding your path, then kind of stopping when you see no road ahead is also a good idea. So it's been quite a journey, right? And for me, like, I was doing music business in school. I was doing the whole law thing for a while, and then I moved to Singapore, where I was doing marketing for a tech company, which I hated more than I hated law. I mean, that's also because at one point in time, my wife said, hey, like, can you like do something for a while? Doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, I'll do this particular gig for 3 years. And then after doing it for like 3.5, 4 years, I was like, let's get into another venture. So my friend was starting a startup. I'm talking like 2014, 2015. And I jumped into it, lost everything once again. And I was studying like AR, VR, 3D printing, AI, cryptocurrency in around 2016. Then when demonetization happened, I realized how little I understand about money. Like, it's something everybody needs to achieve. So I found like maybe I will find a passion there, because since my being involved in the music business, everything I did, whether it's law or marketing or whatever, like working with companies and all, I never felt right sleeping at night. Like, it's like I'm not comfortable. Like, I'm not in the right path, sort of a thing. So that's why I was like exploring more fringe spaces, but that had money in it. Like, the music industry didn't, although I was super passionate about it. So then sort of when I realized that, okay, demonetization has happened, I don't understand anything about it, maybe spending a little time would be great. And I was living off my wife in Singapore at that moment, so I had free food.
That's wonderful.
So I was like, can I try this for a bit? And she's like, yeah, do whatever, like, figure it out, man.
Wow.
And then all I did was like, I didn't have any money to invest. I did not understand trading. I tried doing some like lessons on it, like online, whatever I could find for free, and it made no sense. Like, it was such a royal waste of time. So I spoke to anyone and everyone I could find, whether it's founders, people working in projects, going to all the local events, meetups, get on Discord calls or whatever. I could send emails out to just ask people like, what are they doing? And I realized that, nobody knows anything. So I'm like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity for somebody like me, where nobody knows anything and there is so much money coming into the space. So then I got into it, like, let's do something. So like from 2016 to 2017, applying for jobs and like, hey, like, I want to, give it a shot, but nobody would hire me. So I was like, I'm doing all this research. I'm trying to figure out what's happening. Might as well put out my journey, and like got into YouTube, like started putting out content. My friend, he posted the content. I used to do the research. I was like, till I get a job or like figure out how to do investing, like YouTube would be a good idea. And then I realized that
side gig, but the side gig became the real gig,
because it's really about surviving in this space. Like, especially in a fringe space, you spend too much time, effort, energy, money, or burn relationships doing something which is not going to survive too long. The shelf life of your survival in the industry with that project becomes smaller. And when you're creating immutable assets, specifically which are always going to be there on the blockchain, you're kind of always attached with them. So I thought the media side of thing makes a lot more sense, because one, I'm fascinated by the space. Two, I'm constantly reaching out to people to find out what's happening. And then like, just like we've grown into a team of 35 plus people, creating content, doing research, figuring out what's happening in every area of the space every day. So.
This is amazing. I think you demonstrate the concept of ikigai, which we talk about with young people, that you have to synthesize what are you good at, what are you passionate about, what makes money, and what does the world need. And I think you touched upon all of that, because in running an organization, you definitely have to have creative skills, but also kind of the legal and understanding of regulation and so on. So you're able to leverage your professional training in what you do now. Of course, you have passion, but at the same time, you're like, okay, music probably doesn't work as much, but I love I love media and I love this emerging space of Web
Yeah.
3. And it's something that the world needs because nobody has any solid information about it. So would you say that you found your ikigai?
To a certain degree, yes. Like, it was interesting because having the media organization gives you access to a lot of amazing people. And you get to really understand what's happening there to make better investing decisions, to make better survival decisions as well. There is a difference between investing and gambling, right? And that is how much you understand risk. That's it. And the more knowledge you have, the more you understand risk. So you become a better investor when you understand what are the downsides. What happens in most investing systems is, especially for people who are getting into the space, they only see the upside. But if you calculate the downside, then you will know how much you potentially can lose and such, right? And when you do your research, do the hard work, you don't FOMO into things, and you can hold on to a movement which is downside rather than panicking. So there is a lot of things that help you become better if you kind of focus and understand the macro, and then also from a tech and business and insides of a company from a micro perspective, and then you can see the future better, because that's what investing is all about. You never invest in the present. You're always investing in the future.
Bet on what the future is going to look like. So let's take, your average 20-something-year-old. They're starting to get some discretionary income. They want to build assets, build wealth. There are how many different cryptocurrencies out there?
50,000.
50,000 out there. So in this risky space, what would you advise someone getting in and wanting to invest in cryptocurrency? How do they cap that downside? How do they become investors as opposed to gamblers?
Usually the answer would be like, these are easy things to buy. Like, look into them, research them. My new perspective is buy things that you understand. And everybody has a capacity to understand and truly believe in things. Because if you buy things that somebody else understands and has told you, you're gambling. You literally don't know what you're doing, right? So within the crypto space, like the internet itself, there's a lot of things. You have Google and you have Amazon and you have Netflix and you have Facebook. And they're very, very different from each other. So putting cryptocurrencies as one is not the right way to go about it also. So like, you need to figure out if you like platforms or protocols or DeFi or scaling solutions or legacy coins and various subcategories within crypto, kind of figure out which one you'll find most fascinating or interesting. What's happening in this space? Where is the upside? Where is the downside? And then like, either find parameters that exist, start making basic calls and start seeing how much you're able to sense the market. Get into the space, whatever appeals to you. And it is not necessary to invest in the first place, like just being an observer. And I was lucky. Well, that's so weird to say, but just because I didn't have money to invest in the crypto space allowed me to kind of spend more time not bothering about the investing side, just like doing my thing, like applying for jobs and starting a YouTube channel, which allowed me to kind of get a much better view. But of course, like, I've lost everything twice already in crypto. I think the best education is always learning from failures. There is nothing more interesting or nothing that teaches you more than your own experiences, like your own failures. Like, I think that's been one of the key things. It's not law or like, even with the music business, like, it taught me a lot about failure for sure, or what works and what doesn't work. And it was every failure made it easier for me to get on to the next one. But that said, people like me whose parents are doing decent and like, we can stay with them, we have a cushion. So failure is always an option. For many people, failure is not an option. They need to survive. They need to have a job on the side and not do these crazy things. And this is what it is. Like, people need to know what their appetite for doing crazy things is. For me, when I went to Singapore, it was more like I go there and either I 100x what my parents have done, or I go back and I say, hey, like, I tried everything and now I've given up. So got lucky, worked hard. It's done well so far. Let's see how the future holds. It's a crazy space.
Definitely. I want to quickly touch upon, because I think this is valuable life advice. When you lost everything twice, what did you tap into for inspiration, motivation? How do you get out of that? I mean, once I understand, twice, I'm sure a lot of people were like, yo, Shash, let's get out. Let's do something else. What kept you going? What gave you that self-belief?
Well, the research was not wrong. It was just you make silly decisions. I can give you what happened. I'm a firm believer of Bitcoin. Like, I think the technology is extremely sound. I think the community is very smart. Like, I think a lot of amazing things are happening. It's literally digital gold, right? So I believed in it so much that like in 2020, I thought that, hey, like selling it at low prices doesn't make sense. So I leveraged my BTC to take a loan on it to get my company's survival happening and stuff. But there was a crazy crash like 13 March 2020 is like the whole markets kind of crashed and went crazy, and all my own personal as well as my company money just went to zero. It was the worst time ever because I learned like a month ago I was going to have a baby, and like Singapore was crazy and markets are crashing and I have salaries to pay. It was like literally crazy. First reaction was like a complete panic attack, but then it was more like it's still sound. The space is still sound. I made a mistake. So since then, like have never ever taken a leverage position, and also like stopped with anything fancy. Like I've realized simplifying things, understand, study, buy and sell. No need to do many fancy things around it. Like there is no need to kind of take further risk, but focus on things that I understand. And that turned out to be one of the best decisions. In a way, one of the best things that happened to me as well, because I would not have reanalyzed my investment thesis, worked on a much more focused sort of a strategy, and it did really well for me.
Thank you so much. I want to turn our sights to the future. Just 15 years ago, I mean, mobile app development was just coming on the scene, and very few people saw what a dominant force it would be in technology in virtually every industry. My question to you is, what's the mobile app development of 2023? You know, what should young people wishing to make a name in Web 3.0, what skills and sensibilities should they develop? And connected to that, what kind of developments do you expect to see in the next 15, 20 years? I hope you're enjoying this episode of Chat Masala. Before we move on with this insightful conversation, please be sure to subscribe and follow us so we can continue expanding our minds together.
Yeah, I think the first thing is always finding out what people's passions are and the problems they want to solve. It's not the medium that solves the problem. Like you don't need to make an app or make a website or build a platform, right? Like the first thing you need to do is like figure out what problems you need to solve. Are you solving it for yourself first, which is always great? Or are you solving it for others, which is also great, but then you need to know where those others are. And on the basis of that, figuring out what technologies, what platforms, what mediums, what marketing, what storytelling, what business, what fundraising, and everything around it that one needs to do, right? Like once you've identified that, then you have a goal, right? Like the goal is never money and the goal is never success. Like it's always solving problems. From an entrepreneur perspective, it's always that. So once you've identified that, then you thrive on and start figuring out whether it's an app or whatever. More from a blockchain or Web3 or crypto or NFT and all these fancy word side of things. The thing is that people complicate it way too much. It's simply your ability for the first time own, possess and transfer a digital asset. Like that's it. Like people make a big hoo-ha about this whole space, but it's actually fairly simple. You could never own a digital asset before, and now you can. This digital asset could be a Google stock, it could be gold, it could be a piece of paper, and I'm just giving examples, not actual gold, but like it could be anything. So it's not like everything which is made immutable or made or minted or created will have value. Like the dot-com bubble, what we had is people bought a lot of dot-com stocks is because they felt like there will be limited number of websites. But we have 1.9 billion websites right now, and my Facebook page is not Google. But people didn't have an understanding back then of how to differentiate between the two. I feel the same is in with crypto. Like people look at pricing and charts and this and that more. I feel now is the time to understand fundamentally what is Amazon and what is my Facebook page. Like if you can differentiate between the two, then you have solved one problem. From a tech side of things and development side of things, crypto is always about creating, especially crypto, not just blockchain. Like blockchain has many, many uses. Crypto is essentially creating microeconomies, whether they're in a fungible format where you create a local currency for your platform, or you create a non-fungible asset which has like different things to it, and then people can own it, possess it, transfer it, buy and sell it, and then everything else happens around the fact that you can do these three things with a digital asset. So blockchain or crypto by itself doesn't solve anything. It only enhances existing systems to be able to create more trustless environments and also create microeconomies if you want to create those. So I'm just giving a random example, but in Athena, if you wish to kind of have like everyone rewarded for, throwing stuff in the dustbin or putting out an interesting post or creating something, now you can have your own internal economy, which initially will just be valueless and just be like something that you all appreciate. Eventually, when people says, hey, I love those students and like I'm willing to give people a discount on my restaurant for having that currency or blah blah blah, then you come to an environment when it has further adoption. But what happens is, because these digital assets are globally accessible instantly by everyone, if there is a hype cycle and a way to make money, then they instantly become these hyped up things without proper underlying value. So there is a lot more speculation than use case. And that speculation is why we keep seeing these massive volatilities as well. So it's very important to understand why the asset is volatile. But
I think that's really helpful. So you're saying, as was the case with the dot-com bubble, there's something here. There's
for sure.
There's a lot of value, but then there's some hype added on top of it, and that will lead to cycles, bubbles bursting, as we've seen. But nobody can deny that the internet has skyrocketed in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So that you're making a similar point with cryptos, that there are these hype cycles and so on. There are going to be bubbles burst, but long term, this is kind of a mega trend that will persist.
.com was a very US thing as well, like US, Canada. Crypto is a very global thing. And what happened post-internet is the internet age, right? And that internet age made everybody get a lot of access to a lot of information instantly. And now that everybody has access to information instantly, they can jump on things and they can be sort of told stuff which may or may not be true. So like people without complete understanding, due diligence, jump into things without hoping that, hey, like, I may not get another chance. I need to take this opportunity. Many of them never pan out. But then also what happens is you don't know how much is the upside and you don't know how much is the downside. So like if you're going to buy something for $0.01 and you sell it at 5 cents, but then it goes to 20 and now you're hoping it's going to go to 100, you put in back at 20, but it goes to 10 again. You're just completely like wasting time with gambling and stuff. And a lot of people do that because there are a lot of like standard practices which are considered best practices, which are not. And that is going to evolve over time and things will start making sense.
Got it. Building on this question, so if you can paint us a picture, you understand the space better than anyone, what does 2050 look like? Extrapolating on all of these trends, what are some day-to-day activities? How are our interactions going to fundamentally change with the development of Web3?
Yeah, firstly, I literally don't understand this space. I try very hard every day for the last 7 years, 24/7, to understand what's going on. I have fancy ideas and thoughts, but it is what it is. To tell you about how it will look in 2050, I have a vision which can show me 5 years in the future, frankly. When I got into the space 7 years ago, I could see 2 months in the future. Now, I feel I can see 5 years in the future because I understand the macro environments and micro. So, like 2050 is a little too far for.
No worries.
In a while, I'll get there. But what I see is growth of more users rather than speculators. Because in the crypto space, there is a major confusion between who's a user and who's a speculator. Again, internet didn't have users. People had speculators in like early 90s. But there was no Netflix, there was no Amazon, there was no social media services, Twitter, etc. Like when that happened and people started using them, and they didn't care about whether Twitter is built on Rust or something else is built on Haskell or Python. Like they're not getting into that side of things, but they're just trying to be users. Then there's a value within the network.
I see. Okay, this is helpful.
So that is going to bring more value to it. And I think everything in the Web 2 side of things can integrate Web 3 elements to it. But decentralization, more than technology, it's also a thinking process. It's not keeping your organization in the center and like connecting to everywhere else. It's like keeping your organization such that everything else is connected with each other. It's like removing middlemen to a degree, creating trustless ecosystems and all. So I feel people will start creating places where things happen in a much more autonomous manner. Like there are a lot more organizational structures based on communities and such. So that will be interesting to see. I think gaming benefits a lot from this technology as well. It does enhance gaming to a certain degree. Like gamers have been playing against each other for the last 20-25 years, and they've been using in-game currencies, right? So what blockchain brings is composability. That means if you come up with the game Angry Birds 1, there's no way for you to port your community onto Angry Birds 2. But with composability you can, because everything is connected with your wallet. Because of the nature of composability here, it's not like, you could give them the same username, password, but it's really complicated. With crypto connectivity, it becomes much easier as well.
What's the definition of composability? What do you mean by that?
Composability means you can connect with various things seamlessly.
Got it. You mentioned decentralization, and that brings us to this philosophical point about crypto. And perhaps one reason governments aren't keen on seeing its rise because it might compromise the integrity of traditional financial institutions and currencies. How do we assuage that fear? I can imagine that if cryptocurrencies surge, the value of the traditional rupee or dollar may plummet, wiping out the savings of millions, if not billions.
Right.
What would you say to this concern?
Government's concern or people's concern?
Well, both, I guess. How do we ensure that those holding their assets in traditional currencies aren't compromised with this new advent?
I believe innovation should always precede regulation. When something is a baby and it's teething and it's gonna keep falling, etc., you can't call it defected, right? Like it's just starting off. It's not been where it is. And we have a lot of information that gets spread really fast, and people become judgmental and opinionated that this is right or wrong without giving it the due time to come to a place where it can be more reliable, right? I do totally understand the government's issues as well, but I think education is kind of lacking in minds of people as well, like how to not make silly mistakes, because everybody is like, this is interesting, this is going to do well, buy it, sort of a thing. And because everybody has access, you can't get all the information there. But then also Bitcoin as a blockchain is fairly transparent. Ethereum is fairly transparent. Like you cannot commit a crime and not get caught. Like it's way more transparent than cash.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
how exactly does that happen? I'm curious, because you mentioned criminal activity. And I know there have been a lot of cases around this. If I'm an international criminal using cryptocurrency, it's decentralized. How exactly are such crimes prevented?
Yeah, because it's all transparent. That means it's actually a non-private sort of a blockchain. So that means if you hack my system or whatever, and I pay you and you give it to him and you give it to her, and she puts it on a centralized exchange, then it can easily be traced as to who she is, and then we can ask her, how do you get the money, this, that, and it kind of gets traced back to you. Actually, it's way more transparent. Like I read a study recently that very, very little Bitcoin is actually used for illegal activities, because like it gets traced back much faster than money does.
Cash
Fiat does. But to answer more of a question, there are regulatory problems that the regulators feel exist, but there are no sensible attempt on making guidelines either. What they see is the movement of money, which is like, hey, like people are trading all this, there's money coming in. What does the regulator want? To protect the investors and to make sure things are sensible, like there is taxes which are paid and nobody's laundering money. Like these are the basic things, right? I think once they understand that there are so many facets to this technology and not just that, then they can figure out how to regulate, what to regulate, come up with reasonable guidelines around it. But what happens is there is a problem, let's regulate just that problem, and then you never get like an overall sort of a system that looks at various aspects of what is right, what is wrong, what an entrepreneur can work on, what is the right way to obtain licenses, how to kind of keep track of things, etc., etc.
So basically you're saying we need to adopt a more holistic and nuanced understanding of the pros and cons and tailor our policies and regulations specifically accordingly.
It can't be stopped though. See, at the end of the day, the only way a person can be really stopped from using crypto is like you put a gun on their head. Like that's pretty much it. Guns beat Bitcoin. Like it's as simple as that. But beyond that, like you can't really stop people from using this technology in general right now, because a blockchain doesn't work on the internet. Like, it has its own network, and it's a very robust, secure, and a hard surface, which is completely impenetratable. You can't like do anything much on it. Like, it's super secure, right? So it's not like the government says, hey, I'm going to stop Bitcoin, they stop it. It's not going to be possible. So they need to figure out what they can do around it. But yes, even with other cryptocurrencies, like, this is going to be sort of a Web3. And when I say Web3, it means Web2 is what we have with the internet without the value chain of money. Like, ideally, I'm lucky because I had the opportunity to see this movement in the blockchain space. The internet should have been born with blockchain on it already when it first came out. Like, the fact that it wasn't there, we're seeing all these things now, but by now it would have been settled and people would be paying everything online. There would be no need for PayPal, etc. The internet would have kind of taken care of that. But we have to now go through this complete new grind of things and kind of go there. Maybe the valuations and the mistakes, etc., may have been fixed if the internet was born with the blockchain. But because internet came first and everybody can talk about everything before the true value is realized, we are where we are. But it's going to start making sense, and it'll be really amazing.
Coming back, because you mentioned on multiple occasions that you love music, you love art, and NFTs kind of combine technology and art. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how they're disrupting the space of digital art?
In end of 2020 is when like NFT started becoming more popular, kind of getting more hype around it, and most people started speaking about it. And NFTs themselves have multiple use cases. Like we briefly discussed, like I think there's a lot it can be used for within gaming, it can be used within organizations. But of all the industry that blockchain enhances, because blockchain enhances finance by decentralization, trustless nature, it enhances gaming because true ownership of digital assets, composability, etc. I think one industry that NFTs and blockchain truly revolutionize and not just enhance is the art business. Art business has been completely archaic for the last 400 years. You have two companies, Christie's and Sotheby's, that started in like 1700s, which are still going on and being the leaders in this space. With the advent of Web 2, many art forms gained a lot of like traction in terms of business upliftment. So for musicians, they had MySpace, and then they had LimeWire, and then they had Napster, and then they had Spotify, Apple Music, many ways to sell online tickets, digitalization of concert programming, like a lot of things in terms of business, CD printing, you have CDDB, Make My CD, etc. Like so many things happened that kind of made sales and business and everything kind of easy from a musician's perspective. For content creators, from theaters and performance artists, they got everything from YouTube to Twitch to TikTok to Facebook, like everywhere, right? And also not to forget Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus. For like serious people, they got their things. For authors, they got everything from Kindle to blogs. Like blogs totally revolutionized the public publishing business. But artists got Instagram.
By artists, you mean like visual artists?
Visual artists. Okay. Visual artists got Instagram and they got like DeviantArt, and no means to kind of survive off any of them. There was no business enhancement with Web 2, right? Like the system remains the same. There is a gallery, an artist goes there and the gallery does all the work for you, in the sense they will tell you who the best artist is. They will display all the artists, take 50-60% of the money, never give a royalty to the artist for secondary sales, resales, And it came to a point, and it has come to a point now, if I have to put a gun on your head and ask you name 5 contemporary musicians, you'll be able to. But if I say name 5 contemporary artists, it might be hard, right? Visual artists. But there is a lot of value in that side of things. And that business needed to be changed for a while. And I think the fact that NFTs allow for seamless transfer, complete accessibility, royalty payments on secondary sales, and many, many other amazing things, brings in the complete revolution of the art business. Sort of like what blogs did to the publishing business, this will do to the art business in general. Of course, like you now have both physical art, where an NFT can be like a separated thing with an enhanced version on it, and also could act like a certificate of ownership as well. For digital art, there was no means for transfer, right? But now there is, and I feel like and I feel like it is much more easier for me to talk to a lot of people who are not into blockchain or crypto and just discuss art and say, hey, like, do you like this, etc., is much easier than to explain to them or even get feedback from them when I explain to them what is Binance coin or Ethereum coin or Matic coin or 50,000 coins are there. Like, I think an artist's career is far more investable if you have the right set of data and understanding. Also, I think art is so much more meaningful as an investment. Art is so much more meaningful as something that you can collect. And also, lastly, like, everybody with the crypto side is looking for a utility. I go back to the example I gave. If you were to have an internal coin, if it's not being used, the value is going to zero. Art is one of that thing which is a pure store of value by itself. It doesn't need a use case. You don't need to get a discount when you hold art. It looks amazing. If you print it, it looks great. If you put it in a metaverse, and you can have, like, I have my own like metaversal galleries where my friends can walk in, enjoy the art. I get prints of them. I've bought in a lot of physicals. I think a lot of money will start flowing into this space, and I think it's going to become extremely exciting. Though we are still dealing with a lot of traditional mindset in that business, and I feel nothing crazy is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. But I think this revolution is unstoppable. Like, this is going to become truly massive. And I can quickly give you, like, when MP3 sort of came out and they started getting some traction, people believed like it's going to take like 3 years for getting complete adoption and kind of taking over CDs and cassettes and everything. It took over 13 years. So when you have truly revolutionizing technologies, you cannot see or say when it'll happen. This particular data set comes from my friend who's the CEO of Maker's Place. Yeah, Craig. Yeah, so shout out.
Lovely. This is fascinating. So I never thought of this before. So basically every other artist community besides visual artists kind of really enjoyed this explosion of recognition and income.
Business
as a result of Web 2.0.
Yeah.
And Web 3.0 can bring that to visual art. Did you say you have a metaverse gallery and your friends can walk in and check out your NFTs?
I can make you have one in 5 minutes.
Oh, amazing.
Send you some art and you can start putting it also. Like,
and how do I access the metaverse?
Just go to your metaverse. It'll be like a very simple domain with your name on it.
Amazing. It's fascinating. Just trying to make it more concrete. A lot of young people, again, looking to get into technology, economics, finance, even art, politics, law. What would be your advice to a 20-year-old right now who's like, this is fascinating. I really want to be the next Shash. What can I start with?
I think one thing to really know is that focus is such an important thing. Also, identifying what you're passionate about and hopefully has money in that industry, and then sort of solving problems in that space would be a lot of fun. Like, it'll be fulfilling, sort of an adventure. Will you succeed in it? Will you not? Like, you can never know that. But it's about trying, and you might be lucky and you might hit it big in the first shot, or you might have to try 4 times, 5 times and then get nowhere. But also the other thing is that money is never a goal. Money is a tool. If you know how to use that tool well, you will really enjoy life in general. If you look at money as like, I need to have a certain amount, then it's like no different than having 50,000 hammers lying with you where you cannot do anything with it. And I used to think on these lines, but then I saw like Elon Musk spend $44 billion to buy Twitter. And you can clearly see like it's just a tool. Like he's used it as a tool to do cool things. And like, it's people may always look at it from that's such a bad financial decision, yes or not. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. But if you're not using the tool to do cool things, then you're just having a house full of tools, and you can never take it anywhere. You don't change anyone's life just by holding tools.
Got it. And coming back to what you said originally, I think that was such a powerful piece of advice, which is start with the problem. Start with what do you observe in your community? What are the issues that people are facing? What are the pain points? What are the frustrations?
Your own first. Like, I'll tell you, right? I've been researching and investing and buying and collecting and just talking to people in the NFT art space for the last 2.5 years now. I must have spoken to at least 9,000 plus artists in this time, and I've been wanting to be a collector in this space. Like, I have collected a lot, but like I want to be a serious collector, like somebody who understands what is investment grade, somebody who understands what is personal collection, somebody who understands when I'm buying something for a cause, be very strategic about my approach towards it. And I realized that what happened with the traditional market is that the galleries never cared about educating collectors. Collectors were literally idiots who would just fall into the FOMO that the galleries will give them. I want to build a tool which enables people an easy movement into becoming an art collector. I've always been intimidated by entering a gallery. Like if there's a grocery store and a gallery, I'd enter the grocery store just because, like it's just, I think a lot of people are very intimidated by entering galleries. I can't be wearing tuxedos or holding wine glass. I don't know how to do that. And maybe it's friendly and open, right? But it's still like this mental block that, hey, it's for rich people. I've never been rich my life, right? So it's always been, but now I can own my own gallery, right? Like I think people always want to buy art or invest in art. It's just that it's been created. There's this mindset like, hey, it's maybe it's not
inaccessible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the word, right? But now it's accessible. Now there are people from Switzerland who can discover an artist by name, a little child, not a child, but like a kid from Nigeria who's making these beautiful sketches and is going to be like massive in the future. I think this accessibility changes everything. And also the number of collectors who seriously buy in the world from investment perspective is a very, very small number. I feel the world is going to become a collector of art in the future because it's just so meaningful. And like I have glasses on, but I am a practical person. Like I think 2.5 years enhanced to my NFT journey started in 2017. Like I've been in that space long enough, but identifying where it truly works takes a while. And kind of like the research I've put into kind of analyzing this space has helped me. This is an example. Like once you start getting into feeling a space, then you focus on what all you can do within it. Then you see like what you want to do in the next 5 years. And the goal, if it is an industry which is growing, which has money in it or people passionate about it, you will make the money. Like I truly believe that. Like money is just, it's bound to happen if you're smart. But if you're passionate and focused, then the survival with money becomes better. Because I'm not in fear of losing everything again. Like I don't have that fear anymore because I know I can get back.
Oh, it's wonderful. We like to end with a quick rapid fire. What's one value you hold dear?
Passion.
What are 3 skills you think young people should focus on today in 2023?
Communication, focus, and health.
I haven't heard that before. That's great.
Need to focus on health myself.
Lovely.
Though.
Very important. What is your preferred mode of payment?
Cash. I'm not.
After all this, okay. Lovely. Excellence is blank.
Overrated.
Ooh. You have to explain that.
Excellence? Excellence is like perfection, right? Like it's like trying to be the best. And I think sometimes people just trying to be perfect are not able to see. Like as an entrepreneur, you have to stop at a point where you say, hey, this is an MVP. An MVP, if you're looking for excellence within your MVP, you're going to spend a lifetime to come up with a product which should have been released a while ago. So I kind of feel, at least from my perspective, sometimes achieving excellence, you need to stop at some point of time and kind of settle somewhere. That's the world I live in. So
the most creative response we got to that. Thank you. And finally, what is one change you wish to see in the world in 2035?
Everyone becomes an art collector.
Lovely. Fantastic.
Simple.
Shash, this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.